Hello, this is Salam. 2.5 years ago, I bought this YESWELDER 165DS and I review it and I put a video on YouTube. That video brought a lot of subscribers and I have a lot of comments and feedback from viewers. Some requested that I do a review on the YESWELDER 205DS stick welder, and I also got some comments of a viewer who tried that machine and they liked it. In this video, I'm going to review the MiG-205DS made by YESWELDER machine. This machine will run on 110 and 220. It's capable of a stick weld, MIG weld including flux core, lift arc, TIG welding. And I'm also going to review in another video this spool gun made by YESWELDER, and I will try to run this spool gun on this machine. I will clean this table and I have everything ready, and then I will unbox this machine. I haven't opened it yet, see what's come included with it, and then we will test it with the flux core. That's what I'm going to use this machine with, is the flux core and stick weld. However, I also bought some MIG wire made by YESWELDER and some aluminum wire to try with the spool gun. And I have this welding gas cylinders. One of them is C25, which I'm going to try to MIG weld with this machine on C25. It's a mix of 75% argon and 25% CO2. And I have this 100% argon. I'll try it with the spool gun. I hope you enjoy this video. It has the European style connector for the torch, and you could change polarity. It's come with two tips. They look about the same size as my Lincoln MIG welder. I will see. Make sure it's the same thread because I have a lot of those consumables. It also have this plastic insert. Usually you use that when you weld aluminum. This may be capable of welding aluminum without the spool gun, but it's better to use the spool gun. This way the welding wire don't get damaged. So it comes with that. The torch, it's very well made and it's set up for MIG. Usually for a flux core, you want plastic cover to go on top of this one. You want narrow head so you could fit it in a small area. This really feels good, feel very well made. The length of it is exactly 10 feet to this point. We'll install this. Once we install the welding wire, it may get stuck over here. You may have to remove this every time you install a new wire. Or you know what? No, it will align itself. It has a concave fitting inside, so the wire should register itself and continue to feed. This is the first time I use this style of connector. The first thing I'm going to weld with it is a flux core. So I'm going to put this on the negative lead. It's 1 inch shy of 10 feet. The cord is 6 feet 2 inches from here to the machine. This is set up for 220. It has a hose for the welding gas, and it will connect right here in the back. Right here, and it has the on and off switch right here. It's come with this adapter to connect the machine to 110 or 120 volt. It's 12 inches, so this will add another foot to this cable. It has the manual and a 3-roller. There is one already installed on the drive. It has this label. And it looks like something you could stick somewhere on the machine if you want to. And the manual. I will remove all this plastic so it doesn't catch on fire, and then I will load it with some flux core, a welding wire, and we'll try to weld on 110 and 220. I will take some input reading, voltage reading, and current reading of the input. This way, if somebody want to buy it, so they know the current required to weld. I'm going to weld a 3/32 stick weld on 110, an 1/8 inch on 220 70-18 rod. And for the flux core, I'm going to use 30 thousandths of inch of flux core. And for the MIG, I'm also going to use 30,000. From my experience, this dimension that I provided you, it worked great. The 3/32 and the 1/8 inch welding rod for the 165DS, they work great. On 110, I always use a 1/16 of inch or 3/32 rod, and for 220, I use 1/8 inch rod. And the 30,000 welding wire, it's working great for the type of welding that I use. So this is what I'm going to use with this one. I have 35,000 welding wire. I'll probably try it in later videos on different video when I build a project or something, and I will use this machine. I will show you the size of wire and show you how this machine does. Let me clean the table and I'll be right back. The wire feeder is very well made. It's made of metal. There's a few plastic components, and this is required for electrical insulation. For those who are new to MIG weld or flux core, the spool will goes here, and this machine support small size spool, the 1 pound or 2 pounds. you have to remove this part, install the roller, and then you have to install the spring and these two washers to keep the roller in place. And then the wire will feed this way to this spring, and then to this fitting, and that will feed to the torch. You also have to select the right roller. YESWELDER, they supplied these 4 rollers. The roller for solid wire or MIG wire, the one required shielding gas, it has smooth grooves. And each one of them has different size. The smallest one is the 0.6 millimeter, this one right here, or 23 thousandths of inch. 0.8 millimeter or 30 thousandths of inch wire. There is another groove on another roller, it's 0.8 millimeter or 30 thousand, and this one has the 0.9 millimeter or 35 thousand. And this additional roller has the 0.9 and 1.2 or 45 thousandths of inch. This for a flux core. The flux core groove, it has this serration or it's rough, and it comes with 2 sizes, 0.8 millimeter or 30 thousandths of inch and 0.9 millimeter or 35 thousandths of inch. We're going to try the 30 thousandths of inch of flux core first, so you need to make sure the 0.8 millimeter with this kind of groove is pointing to the inside, and you need to line this keyway with this roller with the key on this shaft. Make sure the 0.8 is pointing to the inside if you are using the 30 thousandths of inch wire, and this will line this over here. Let me show you a closer look. Also inside this compartment there is this switch to switch between the torch when you use this feeder, or spool gun if you use aluminum spool gun to weld aluminum. So make sure this one is pointing to the torch to be able to use the torch of this machine. And after you insert the roller, then you need to tie it with this. This go on the top of the roller. For most common job, using 0.8 millimeter or 30,000 wire on a flux core or MIG is really all you need with the MIG welding. I welded the stuff up to 1/4 inch with the flux core using 30 thousandths of inch wire, and you could run it safely on 110. You're not going to trip the breaker, and you're not going to overheat the machine. So stick with one supply. This way you don't have to buy many consumable, especially if you use this around the household, or if you build feeders or fix your car, then 30,000 of inch wire is all you need. So you buy enough consumable and enough roller. These rollers, they don't go bad. They will last you for many years if you use them correctly and if you apply tension on them correctly. And there is gauge over here. And there is a chart, I believe it's on the chart how much tension you should put in. But rule of thumb, if you apply the torch and the cable is going straight, you always need to make sure the cable is straight so there's no restriction. And you could hold the wire with your hand. If you apply the spool or you start welding, you make sure you're not grounded, you're not holding the other end. You'll be able to hold the wire. Or don't hold it with your hand on the table, hold it that way. On my other MIG welders, I set it the first time and I never mess with it, and it's working great. I have one machine set for MIG weld, and I have other machines set for flux core, so I don't mess with them. Every time I need to change the spool because it ran out, then I just put a new spool, run the wire, and it's run fine. And like I said, this is very well made. It's made of metal. This compartment look clean and neat, and it has a lock. And the whole machine is lightweight. It feels like it's about 20 pounds. I'm gonna go ahead, get the scale, and scale it, see how much it weighs. Without any wire, it's 23 pounds, 10.5 kilograms. I'm ready to weld with this machine. I'm going to load this 30,000 of flux core wire. I did review on this particular wire in the past. Make sure to watch that video. On the label it shows DC positive. You need to ignore that. Set it to DC negative. Like I said, this, if you use a small spool, you could remove this assembly and insert the spool. Let me go bring a spool and show you. If you buy the small spool, you could remove this, like I showed earlier. I'm showing this in detail just in case somebody new, so they be successful. If they go and buy this machine, they could go ahead and set it correctly the first time. This will fit right there. Make sure the wire direction will feed this way, and then you will set it up like I explained earlier. And if you use the 10 pound, then you have to use this. Put the washers, and then the spring, and make sure you tie this nylon knot with your fingers just till you get to the plastic part so it doesn't get loose. And this will have enough tension for everything to operate right. I apologize, it's windy and the sound may sound different, but I'm doing my best to demonstrate that you could use this welder outdoor. And this, it has left-handed thread. So when you lose it, you go this way. And it shows on this knot, tighten, and it has an arrow. Be careful when you remove the wire from its holder, it may try to unspool. Make sure you cut it square and clean. Yeah, make sure this doesn't happen, or you will have a rat's nest. Line up the wire to go to the torch. The wire goes from here to here. I have the machine connected to 110. I put extension cord. I'm going to plug it when I weld directly to the plug to minimize voltage drop. It has button over here. I will show you the control later. It has a button over here to show feed wire. Yeah, it did get stuck over here. I thought it may line itself with this part. It didn't. And make sure you line the connection for the trigger and also for the gas. Make sure you line those correctly. If you press it and hold it, it will feed faster. It's a good idea to remove the tip too. And also make sure you use the right size tip. This one already set for the 0.8 millimeter or the 30,000. You need to make sure everything's set correctly so you don't have any feeding issue. Tied it just a little bit, don't over tight it. And now this machine ready for some welding. When I turn the welder on, the camera may show flickering on the displays and LED that due to the multiplexing and the camera frame rate. In real time, it doesn't do that. Everything's solid. This button will show manual MIG, synergic MIG, stick, lift TIG. I'm going to set it on this one, synergic MIG. This will allow you to select the shielding gas, AL for aluminum, I believe, CO2 100%, CO2 25%, argon 75%, flux cord. That's what we have inside the machine. On this setting will allow you to only change the current. I will start with current setting of 130 amp. I will reposition the welder to be able to connect it directly to the plug, and I'll show you the input voltage reading and the current reading when we weld with this machine. I copied some information from the user manual of this welder, and I put this information in the slideshow. It will show the function of the buttons and the way to connect the welder and other useful information. Please pause the video and read anything that you're interested in to clarify some of the function and connection of this machine. I am going to connect this tail end to be able to measure the input current. This is 120 volt, a 20 amp circuit. I have about 124 volt AC, 60 hertz. I will set this on the ground. I'll show you when I try to weld the first time, and then I'll set the camera here once I get the machine tuned, so you get a good idea of the input current to size your circuit accurately. Just in case you have a small circuit and you buy a machine like this, you may have a voltage drop, or you may also trip your breaker every time you try to weld. So I want to make sure you have everything accurately. Like I said, this is 120 volt, a 20 amp circuit. I am going to tune the welder on this piece of scrap metal. I'm starting with current set to 130. The current is set a little bit high and the feed rate is fast. I'm going to set it on manual. Yeah, that look right. I have it set to manual MIG, a Flux core, 30 thousandths of inch, and the setting 19 and 4.0. And now I'll take current reading of the input. While the machine idling on 120 volt AC, it reads 0.2 amp. And now I'm going to weld with it on that setting, 19 and 4. I fine-tune the machine on the 120 volt circuit, 20 amp, and I weld this 1/8 inch thick or 3 millimeter piece of metal. And like I said, it's on the high end, so you could weld up to 1/4 inch with this setting, 19.0 and 4.0. And I view the footage and it pull 18 amp on this setting on the high end. So you could lower the setting if you are welding thinner metal, and it will pull less current. And this is safe to run on 120 circuit with this setting, and you could weld for extended period of time without worrying about tripping the breaker or overheating the machine. And now I'm ready to run the same bead on this 3/8 thick piece of steel. I cleaned it with the grinder, and I will run a thick bead, and then I will show you the flux on the top of the weld, and then we clean it with the wire brush on this drill, and I show you how the weld look. I also verified this welder nozzle or torch is compatible with the consumables that I have for my Lincoln MIG welders. I have 2 of them. And also I stated earlier, you need to adjust the tension of the roller to be able to hold it You see, I'm not touching the ground, so I'm not gonna get electrocuted. And this is leather glove, it's thick, or it's safer to use piece of wood. And if you press on the torch, when you let go, the flux of the wire will bob out. You need to make sure be able to hold it. Don't put too much tension on the roller, or this will crush the flux core. Also, when you weld with the flux core, you need to use different nozzle. You need to get something like this. It's hard plastic. And you need to have at least a ½ inch between the weld and the end of the tip to be able to get good weld. If you're too close, you're not gonna allow the flux to do its job. If you're too far, you're gonna cause porosity in the weld. This glove is brand new and it's too hard to operate. So I'm just gonna use this one with the hand that hold the torch. And really did good. It built the flux on the weld. And like I said, you need this nozzle when you do flux core only. There is a process where you could use a flux core wire that designed to run with shielding gas. Also, if you use MIG wire, then you need this to be able to trap the shielding gas in this area so your weld will be strong and look good. This is how the weld look like. And as you see, we have a flux on top of it. And this is very good and strong weld. And now I'm ready to set this welder on 220 and we try it out. My 220 50 amp circuit, it's read 245 volt AC, 60 hertz. I also have this tail end to be able to measure the input current. And the welder will auto-regulate. When you plug it in, it will know if it's on 120 circuit or 220 circuit. Same thing, 0.2 amp when it's on idle. The machine memorized the setting and still show 19 and 4. On the same setting, it ran hotter on 220 than 120 volt. I will run another bead next to the first one on 220 with the same settings. It's very windy, that's why a flux core and a stick is your best option if you weld outdoor. If you have a shop and it's controlled environment, then MIG and TIG will be better because the weld will look better, and in some situation you could run longer bead with the MIG weld and everything will look nice. Generate good heat. And now I'm going to try to stick weld with it on 110 and 220. The stick weld cable is 10 feet and 4 inches in length. I'm going to connect it to the positive terminal. And the work clamp, I will connect it to the negative. I'm going to weld with 70-18 1/8-inch rod on 220, and you could run it on DC positive. And these rods 60-10, you should run them on positive too. I set it on a stick. And for the current setting, I set it on 90. This handle feels good. However, I like to upgrade my welder to these. They're available online and they could handle higher current and they won't get hot. I reviewed them in the past. However, this feels sufficient enough for home use. This is bigger. That's the only thing I'm going to upgrade on this machine. Everything else is excellent. However, it will do the job. If you just use it to weld every now and then to fix your gate, your car, your tractor, this is good enough. On 220, use 1/8 rod. If you weld on 110, use a smaller wire. Use 3/32 or 1/16. Depend on how far are you from the circuit breaker. The further you are, the smaller the wire you need to use, because you're going to suffer from voltage drop. It's not the welder fault, it's just the nature of the beast. If you go away and you have a 12 gauge wire or 10 gauge wire run into your outlet, then you will have voltage drop and your welder will not weld good. That's why you have to use a smaller diameter rod. Now it's on 220, 70/18, 1/8 rod, and I have the welder set to 90 amp. And these old rods, I have them in my shop for about 5 years now. I've been using different rods, and I mainly weld at the ranch. I have all those a new wire or a new welding rod in the shipping container. I'm going to increase the current. $120 amp. It's actually weld very good. Look, the flux is coming off on its own. You shouldn't build a flex if you weld something and you want it to be strong, because this will cause the weld to be brittle. It will cool fast on the surface and it will be hardened, so it will break. You want it to stay ductile so it doesn't break. So keep the flex until it's cool naturally. But for this demonstration, I want to show you what it does. And now I'm going to weld with 1/8 inch 60-10. This, if you're new to arc welding, this is good if you have some rust or some paint and you can't get to it to clean it. This rod, the 60-10, will be a penetrating rod. You could run a root pass, and if you want the weld to be strong, then you clean the weld, clean the slag, and top it with 70-18, and you will get very strong weld. It's very hot. It starts cutting into the metal. So I'm gonna lower the current. Okay, let us try this 95. It also did a great job. The slag on the 6010 is harder to come off. However, it penetrates deep. If we cut this piece of metal and use acid to etch it, it went almost to halfway of the metal. And you could, if you don't have oxyacetylene torch and you want to cut steel, I will show you on this piece of scrap metal, or let me go get something thicker and I will cut it with this rod. This is a piece of a 3/8 thick metal. It's about 2 inch wide. I just ground it in the area where I'm going to ground it. And I'm going to set the welder back to 120 amp. And I'm going to cut this over here. Let me go a little bit hotter. I did cut about 3/4 of inch. Okay, I set it to 150. And as you see, you could cut metal with it. I'm reading the input current on 220 using 1/8 inch 7018 rod, and I have the welder set to 120. Now I'm stick welding on 120 volt circuit, and I'm using a 3/32 7018 welding rod. And I have the welder set to 100. I'm just going to re-weld with the 7018 3/32 rod on 120 volt, and I have the welder set to 100 amp. This machine really, it's doing great. And as I demonstrate, it's very windy today. It's about 15 to 18 mile wind. And with the flux core and stick weld, it's doing excellent. I'm going to try the MIG weld. I'm going to connect it to the shielding gas, and I will change the wire, put some solid wire for MIG weld, and I will show you that. It may not do good because it's windy and the MIG made for indoor. I have a lot of flammable stuff in my shop, so I don't want to take this in my shop and weld. I have to do a lot of cleaning in my shop before I could weld, so I'm going to do it outdoor. I'll clean the table and get everything set up, and the final thing, we do the MIG weld. I'm going to change the roller and use the 0.8 millimeter roller, a smooth groove. I remove the one for the flux core. And I'm going to install the 0.8 millimeter or 30,000 smooth groove for the solid wire, and I need to make sure the 0.8 to the inside, because I'm going to try this 30,000 MIG wire made by YESWELDER. I never tried it in the past. This will be my first time. We'll see how it does. It came with some damage on the spool. However, this is not going to affect the operation of this welder. You always need to make sure to match the wire size to the roller to the tip of the welder. And once again, these tips meant for beginners, somebody who doesn't have any background about using a flux core or MIG welder. This welder, it wasn't completely set up from YESWELDER to be used with MIG weld. You have to buy a flow gauge to connect it to the shielding gas cylinder. I have a few of them. But if you buy this to use it as a MIG welder or to weld MIG wire, you have to get a shielding gas cylinder, C25, and you also have to get a flow gauge. And we're going to use same principle. It should feed this way. And make sure you hold the wire cut it so it's straight and smooth. I have it set on a stick, that's why it didn't feed. If you keep hold the button, it go faster and faster. And I'm pressing on this feed wire button. You probably could do it from here, but it's going to run slow. Once again, make sure you use the right size tip. And for MIG or a Flux core shield gas combo, you have to use this. They also sell a gel, or you could use Vaseline and you could dip this in it so it doesn't collect welding spatter inside. I am going to use my own gauge and my own hose. It seems to be same thread. Make sure when you connect the gauge you don't have any grease, oil, or any dirt on your hand, especially with oxygen, because this will come combustible and it may blow. And also good idea to purge it. And always when you turn it on, keep your face away from it. I left this loose to allow some shielding gas to escape, and now I'm ready to torque it. This is a 3/4 inch wrench. And this over here, 11/16. This is probably metric, but these wrenches, they fit it perfectly. I purged the gas. I kept holding the trigger to allow the C25 to come out. The welder set to manual MIG, C25, and it's set to 20 and 8. And I'm connected to 220. And this is thick, a crowned weld. I'm going to increase the current a little bit and try to run another bead. Or actually the voltage, I'm increasing the voltage right now. I set the voltage to 22 and the speed rate to 8. And that's look way better. This is really not bad, welding it outdoor on a windy day. MIG weld is supposed to be indoor process, or if you have a calm day. I will take a current reading the last time on 220 using the MIG process. This machine is also capable of lifting. Any DC welding machine is capable of that. So I'm not going to demonstrate that. Also, I'm doing it outdoors, so it's not going to be practical. For its price range, it's worth every penny, as I demonstrated. It does excellent job with the Flux core, stick weld, and MIG weld. And it's going to save me space. I don't have to use a Flux core welder and a MIG welder and a stick welder. All right here. In the future, I'm going to post a video reviewing the spool gun to weld aluminum, and I will use this welder. I also going to use this welder for a future project, and I may compare it to other MIG welder as far as weight, current reading, and all that. I hope you find this video informative. Thank you for watching. Be safe and have a good day.